Welcome to the Texas High School Football Coaches Show on Lone Star Gridiron. I'm Chris Daly, and it's my belief that the men that make up the fraternity of Texas high school football coaches are much more than a bunch of thick-necked guys with whistles. They do so much more than teach technique and the X's and O's of football. They take young boys and change them into young men of character. They get kids to believe in themselves, to trust others, and to put others ahead of themselves. Texas high school football coaches are unique in how they impact the lives of these athletes as well as the generations those kids touch. In this show, I sit down with a different Texas high school football coach each time and learn about them. Not their record, not their on-field accomplishments, but who they are and what they believe and what it means to be part of the greatest sport in the greatest state. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Lone Star Gridiron Texas High School Football Coaches Show, Season 4, Episode 20. I am your host, Chris Daly, and each week I bring you great conversations with Texas high school football coaches. My guest today is Coach Matt Uzzell with San Antonio McCollum. And interesting perspective in that he took over a 0-10 team. So, you know, he's got some building to do. I'll introduce you to him right after this. Hey, I want to give a big thank you to this season's title sponsor, Mecca Sportswear, where they are all about celebrating achievement. They're honored that so many high schools, colleges, and universities have chosen Mecca's products to represent their institutions. Mecca supplies you with the very best in custom letter jackets, chenille letters, patches, blankets, banners, pins, certificates, and much more to motivate and celebrate achievement in athletics, academics, or the arts. They create high-quality custom awards that will fit your budget. To see why so many great schools around Texas choose Mecca Sportswear, call Sherry Armstrong or Billy Armstrong at 210-651-6592. Mecca Sportswear, the premier suppliers of letter jackets and awards for over 40 years. If you're looking for a quick and easy way to raise a bunch of money for your sports team, 99 Pledges is the best way for football teams and booster clubs to raise the most money with the least amount of effort. Donors can donate online. Each player gets their own donation page that they can share with their friends and family all over the country, like grandparents in Florida by email, text, Facebook, or any of the social media outlets. By going online with 99 Pledges, it's easy to spread the word about your fundraiser, keep everyone involved and informed. Because of this, 99 Pledges has seen teams raise over $30,000. And teams like the Katy Tigers have exceeded their fundraising goal. That's the best part. Teams keep an average of 95% of what they raise. Players don't have to go door to door or track down donations. They can save all that energy for where it counts, on the gridiron. Check them out at 99pledges.com. They are an excellent organization. You're going to be so glad that your next fundraiser is through these guys. All right, everybody join me in welcoming Coach Matt Uzzell from San Antonio McCollum to the show. Coach, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Chris. How are you?
Oh, I cannot complain. I mean, it's another beautiful day in Texas, right?
Yes, sir.
Let's jump right in. I like to start off by finding out when you discovered the game of football itself. And again, it could be when you're 4 years old, but you know, let's talk about that a bit.
Yeah, discovering the game of football. I mean, it definitely happened at an early age. I think my earliest memory, you know, might include Warren Moon with the Oilers, Eric Metcalf at the University of Texas. I remember watching a Thanksgiving game with my dad, and they were, you know, the Longhorns were playing the Aggies, and you know, at that time he was like, "Which team are you going for?" And Eric Metcalf was tearing it up, so I said, "I'm I like that team. So I think I've been a Horns fan ever since.
Yeah.
Because of that. So very early age, I played Pop Warner, up through middle school and all the way to high school. And so, football has been a part of my life ever since I can remember it.
Nice. So tell me, when did you start to think, hey, I might do this coaching thing for a living?
Yeah, coaching, probably when I realized that my football days were going to come to an end as a player, which was probably about 15 or 16. I realized I probably wasn't going to spend, 15 years or so in the NFL at that point. I remember fifth grade, drawing plays on my notebook instead of paying attention in math class. So, I think it's always been something that I wanted to do. I get to wear shorts to work every day, and that's, that's a definite added incentive. But, it was from early on, doctors, lawyers, all those. No, I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to be, like some of the men I saw on TV. That hasn't changed in, 35, 40 years almost.
Nice. So where'd you go to high school?
I went to McCollum, graduated from McCollum in 1997.
Okay, and then you went off to college. Where'd you do that?
Went to Trinity University here in town. I got an opportunity to continue playing, and their program at that time was taking off. Coach Moore had taken over the program in the early 90s, and it was kind of a skeleton of a program. And by the time I got there in 97, they had made the playoffs, the Division III playoffs one time, and were kind of, that it was coming to be expectation of the culture as we're going to compete at a national level. And I got to do that for 4 years, which was an awesome experience. We lost 6 games in 4 years, played in the semis twice and the quarters twice. And it was a great experience. And that just fueled my desire to continue doing this for the rest of my life.
Nice. So if you could now, take us stop by stop every coaching position you've had from you graduated college to today. Okay.
Well, I graduated in 2001 and actually spent a season as a grad assistant / student assistant / gopher kind of for Coach Moore. I got to coach the offensive line there at Trinity. And then in 2002, I got a chance to go to McCollum's sister school in the Harlandale Independent School District, Harlandale High School. And I worked there from 2002 to 2009, and during that time, I coached varsity defensive line. I was a special teams coordinator for a period of that time, and then coached a myriad of other sports as well. I was spending some time as the head track coach as well. Then in 2009, I went to Southside High School in San Antonio and was the offensive coordinator for Southside until 2014. And then in 2014, I got an opportunity to go back to Trinity University as the offensive coordinator and offensive line coach there. And I spent the last 4 years until taking the job at McCollum last February. Nice.
So I hear a lot of offensive positions. When you move into the big C, you've also got to, you've got the defense as part of your
right.
your bailiwick there. So is that something where you just say, okay, I find a good defensive coordinator and I don't worry about it, or do you get more involved in both sides?
Well, I've half my career almost, the entire time I was at Harlandale, I was a defensive coach. So defense is very important to me. I'm not one of those offensive guys that we're just gonna outscore a team. I want to play good defense, control the football, and dictate tempo with that. So, as far as the question goes of hiring a good defense coordinator, I think I have a great young one that is a great person first and foremost, and then we're working together to learn what defensive scheme and to put our kids in the best possible situation. We're leaving for a clinic today to go down and listen to some people talk on both sides of the ball. But no, I'm not an offense first guy by any stretch. I played for some coaches and worked with some that were, and those days of practice when the offense has a bad day, it was a bad practice. And sometimes the offense has a bad day because the defense had a great practice, and I want to make sure that I'm giving every player in every facet of our program the attention and the credit that it deserves moving forward. So yeah, I got a great defensive coordinator. I'm involved a little bit in all aspects of the game, but primarily my role is I run the special teams.
Nice. All right. So, in your career, I am sure there are coaches who played a role. If you could pull out a couple of those coaches and maybe some of the things you learned from them.
Okay. Well, first I got to talk about one of the guys I played for as a player.
Mm-hmm.
I got the opportunity to play football for more time than most people do, and I was very grateful of that. So I had some great coaches, and I had some not so great coaches, and you learn something from all of them. But the guy that jumps to the top of the list, and no matter how you slice it, it was my middle school coach, Gary Martin. He was a young coach himself, but he did everything that he could to impact us in ways that go beyond sports. But sports-wise, from him, I learned how to focus. I learned how to channel the competitive desire that I had into a positive thing. And and he's a middle school coach to this day. He was a career middle school coach, and it was by no means because of a lack of ability to move up, so to speak, to the high school or the college level. He just loves impacting kids in those formational years, and he jumps to the top of the list. And then as a coach myself, worked for some great head coaches with some great assistant coaches, but Paul Hauber, who I get the chance to work under him, he was the DC at Harlandale when I was there, and then when I moved to Southside, it's because he had taken the job at Southside. And so I worked with Paul for 12 years, and he was, a big brother type of mentor, and held me accountable, taught me the right way to do things. And what I took from Paul, not only was he great with X's and O's, he was, still is, no question about that, but he genuinely cared about the kids, and from the managers, the manager that was helping out him in the equipment room to the all-city linebacker. He built a relationship with all of them. And I don't want to say that he treated them the same, because I learned another thing from him is that, kids are different, and they need to be handled in different ways. And so he didn't treat them the same. He treated them the way that he could best reach them and build relationships with them. And so those two guys, stick out in my career as some of the best that there's ever been.
Nice. You mentioned, would you say elementary or junior high? I can't remember, where you're sitting there writing plays, working on the X's and O's
yeah.
of the sport. and then every coach, somewhere along the line, at least every good coach, it switches from the X's and O's to caring for those kids. When was that transition for you?
That's a great question. I don't think it was an overnight transformation to where I just got it. But I would say it would have had to have been in my early years at Harlandale, my first job, when working with Paul, and seeing how X's and the X's and O's have to be sound. There's no question about that. But there's also more than one way to skin a cat, and there's a system, there's relationships, there's those things. One of the things at Harlandale that I got the privilege to witness, our head coach there, Isaac Martinez, was the head coach there for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. And when you're sitting in the office as a 23, 24-year-old know-it-all coach, and a 30-year-old man walks in and has come to visit the coaching staff because of the impact that they had on their life, further back than even when you were in high school. That definitely puts a picture on what you do and why you do it. Coach Martinez is another great. I mean, he's a legend on the south side of San Antonio, and by the time he was done coaching, he had coached some grandchildren of some kids that he had coached early on, and that was great to see these guys coming in, literally older than me, and still treating him. He's still Coach Martinez. He's still got the same respect that I gave him that I was in high school, but I'm now a grown man, and a lot of the things that he taught me in my high school years has made me the person that I was today, kind of deal. And they were just coming back to say that and to thank the guys, and that, so it had to be somewhere during that time period.
I love it. A lot of new coaches, fresh out of college, kind of poo-poo the idea of paying your dues and being starting at the middle school. But you mentioned Coach Martin was such a big influence on you,
right, in
middle school. I think part of that is because of kids are at a crucial stage right then. When you hire a coach, do you look for people who've got that experience?
Well, first and foremost, I'm looking to hire guys that I can trust 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to represent themselves and the program in the way that it needs to be represented. I have a ton of young coaches on my staff. I actually coached 3 of them in high school, and then I have a couple that I coached against, and I think the middle school. I don't know, because I never coached at the middle school level, so I can't. But I've always heard that to be a good coach, you need to coach at the middle school level, and I think there's some truth to that. But what you need to do, regardless of what level you're coaching at, is you need to do your job, do whatever is asked of you to the best of your ability. I have no problem doing laundry along with the youngest kid on our staff that's assigned to it on whatever day, and that no job can be beneath you if you want to do things the right way, whether you move up or not, because that's all relative to how good you are and how situations work out and all that. But if you want to do things the right way, you can't have any job that's beneath you. And I don't think that shows up on a resume. I think that shows up by, I tell our kids every day, tell our coaches too, every day is an interview. Somebody's watching you. Somebody's somebody in a position that can either can help you out or hurt you in the long run is observing you, whether you know it or not. And perfect example, one of our assistants that I hired this summer, I saw him as a middle school coach last year working a track meet. And coaching his kids at a track meet. If you can get fired up about a middle school track meet, you can get fired up about anything. And he was coaching his tail off. And as soon as I had a position that came open that fit his teaching field, I called him. I said, "Hey, are you interested in this? I don't know you very well, but I know that I know what I've seen, and I like that, and I want to work with that." And so those kind of things, I think, and I don't think I really don't think it's a young thing. I think it's just a thing that we all have to learn at some point in our life. And there's coaches have been coaching for 20 or 30 years that think things are beneath them.
Right.
And when any time a sense of entitlement creeps in, no matter how old you are and how much you've accomplished, you're now going to start taking a decline in your performance and your results.
Definitely. So talking about McCollum itself, they haven't had a winning season in like 8 years.
Yeah.
So, is that a tougher situation, or is that unique to each school and it's a little different wherever you go?
It's yes, both and either or at the same time. I mean, any time that you take over or you're involved in a culture that has an experienced quote unquote success,
right?
There's some sort of reasons for it. And, what you've got to do is figure out what those reasons are and try to attack those and move forward. I think, a system of kind of hopelessness kind of creeps in, whether consciously or not, and you've got to fight that. And what we're trying to attack with it right now is just a sense of we're going to compete. We're going to compete in everything that we do, and there's going to be times where we compete our tail off and we just aren't good enough. And there's nothing that we can do about that because you can only control how hard you play and how smart you play. You can't really control whether, the guy across from you is better than you or not. So you compete your tail off and you put yourself, that's the only way you're going to put yourself in position to win. And we talk all the time about, I must compete. When I'm good enough, I want to win, but I must compete. And I'm going to get better by competing with myself on a daily basis to where at some point when that guy that lines up across from me, I'm better than him or I'm close enough to where me doing it the right way is going to help the ball bounce my way a little more often. And then you start to overachieve. And when you can't overachieve in a program unless every single person in that program is carrying their weight, whatever that weight may be, whether it's a third string, scout team player that's given his all every day in practice, or it's your all-state quarterback, their weight has to be carried for your program to overachieve. And so that's kind of the things that we're working on right now. And then the wins are going to come, and and I don't know what that looks like as far as what a quote unquote successful season looks at. I think we've got to do a better job competing in games, and then let that stuff take care of itself.
Nice. So I'll figure out how to ask this without sounding insulting.
Okay.
But it feels like coaches have to be, in addition to knowing their X's and O's and loving their Jimmys and Joes, it seems like they have to be a bit of a politician. And that was the part I didn't want to label you as a politician.
Yeah.
But talk about that aspect of the job.
It was probably the scariest part going in, because I'm not a politician,
right?
But you have to be in a certain sense, and I think really what it turns out to be, and for a longer later discussion, it's what a politician should be. Is
right?
I'm a representative of the community, of the program, and I am truly looking out and trying to make decisions for what's best for all involved. With that being said, open door policy for parents to come in and they can suggest things, but just because the door is open and I'm listening to your ideas doesn't necessarily mean that that's the decision that we're going to make.
Right.
And because there's a bigger picture than one's perspective of what's going on. And so the most important thing is for all stakeholders involved is I have to earn their trust, and they have to know, or they have to at least believe that each individual young person's best interest is at heart. And even though I'm not perfect, I'm making decisions every day based on that intention of their best interest is at heart. People talk about we're going to make decisions for what's best for the program first and the individual second.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my greatest responsibility is to teach these young people how to be great teammates.
Right.
And so what is best for the program is always also what's best for the individual. And just trying to clarify that to where they see that it may not be what I want as an individual, but it's best for me. And in turn, it's best for the program as well. And so those kind of things, there's a fine line, there's a balance, and I'm not going to tell people what they want to hear, but I'm also going to listen to what they have to say.
Nice, definitely. Talk a little bit about the organizations that are there as support for coaches. In San Antonio, you've got the quarterback club, which is the oldest quarterback club in the country. You've got the Texas High School Coaches Association, Athletic Directors Association. Talk about those groups a little bit.
Well, first and foremost, the Texas High School Coaches Association is unbelievable. There is no other organization like it in the country, and because of it, Texas high school football is what it is nationwide. I mean, they're not. I got to spend some time as a college recruiter, and we didn't recruit a ton out of state, but when I did, it was different. And I got a chance a couple of weeks ago to work to coach in the All-American Bowl, put on. It used to be the Army All-American Bowl, and now it's just changed sponsors. It's the same game, but 4 of the coaches from our staff were from out of state, and they couldn't believe the structure and the organization that our in-state coaches had in the programs. Just from the sole fact of a head coach from a major program in Southern California isn't on campus all day long. He has an outside job.
Yeah.
That's just unbelievable. And then of the 4 high school coaches from Texas on our staff, I was the only one that was born in Texas. The other 3 grew up in the Midwest and came to Texas for high school football, to be high school football coaches. And so that organization has played a huge role in keeping that. In San Antonio, there's a Greater San Antonio Coaches or Football Coaches Foundation, which puts on clinics throughout the spring. We'll have 3 clinics. We start on Monday with clinics for that. And it's just an opportunity for coaches to grow and go and grow. And we're going to have, pretty big time speakers. Jake Spavital is going to speak. Eric Wells from Incarnate Word. Those guys are going to speak, and so it's a chance for it's true professional development in this state because of these organizations treat our job as a profession that we're going to get better at. Mm-hmm. And then the Athletic Directors Association, all of those, and just the support that we get makes our jobs a lot. I don't want to say easier, but because I think it is easier with all of the support, but it's definitely more enjoyable because we know that there's a group that's there to support us in fighting the fight that we're trying to fight with impacting young lives.
Right. Right. So you touched on recruiting a little bit as a recruiter, but as a coach, what role do you play in helping getting your kids recruited?
The first thing I tell them, and they don't believe me, but it's the truth is we stay on them with their academics year round. I do a grade analysis report for our program every 6 weeks to see where we are, because that opens. It may not open the door, but it opens doors to getting into opportunities. I was fortunate enough to play college football, but the main reason that I got the opportunity that I did was because of my GPA and my test score and my class rank. Because Trinity University is not a place that anybody. It's very strict with their academic requirements. Mm-hmm. And so that opened up an opportunity. There, without my grades, it wouldn't. So I work with the guys on that, staying on top of the academics and all of that. And then, of course, you build a relationship with college coaches, and the biggest thing that we've got to do with that relationship is we've got to be realistic, and we've got to be honest and keep that credibility so that when we do have kids that can help them, they believe us, and so in just working with the kids and trying to help them. I tell the kids, I can't make a plan for you, but if you have a plan, I can help you execute that plan to the best of my ability. And that's when a kid at 18 years old has a plan, they're going to be the ones that go off to college and finish and leave a good reputation on the program that they came from. When they don't have a plan and you've got to kind of spoon feed them along the way, they're going to be the ones that end up coming back early and, leaving their college coaches in a bind and all of that. And so a lot of that is put on them. Let's talk about your plan. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? What do you want to major in? What level do you want to try to play at? And we talk about the possibilities of that. And then now I'm going to help you execute that plan. I'm going to call this coach. I'm going to bring this, send this film out. And now we've got a situation. And now we've got a system on, okay, we're going to find you a place to play. And there's tons of places for kids. If kids really want to play, there's a place out there for them that they can continue playing.
Excellent. As far as those relationships with kids, you talked earlier about how you do what's right for the kids, you develop them into the right type of people, but to build that relationship, it takes time. And so when you have a turnover on staff constantly, I could see where kids would be a little hesitant to develop that tight relationship. How do you build that when you're the new coach?
Yeah. Well, you gotta be real. You gotta be genuine. You gotta be consistent. And then there's got to be a lot of grace involved because they are kids and they have been maybe not burned in the past, but if they perceive that they've been burned because they've been, if they perceive that they've been walked out on, then they have. And you have to and you have to combat that. And you talked about taking over the program at McCollum, and your question was, is it hard? Well, that's the hard part is the turnover. I'm the third head coach in 5 years, and the fourth in 8. And so, and that's not counting all of the assistant turnovers that have the more day-to-day relationships with these kids. And so, there is a sense of abandonment and a sense of, I've heard this before. It's culture. We're going to change the culture. Yeah. I've heard that before. And what's going to happen now? And for whatever reason, not shedding any kind of darkness on the people that have come before us. For whatever reason, there has been that turnover. Whether it was a good turnover situation or a bad, it was still for that kid that's left there. All they know or all they feel is, I had a coach, now he's gone. Mm-hmm. He said he wouldn't let me down, but I feel let down. And that's the reality of the business of being a coach. Sometimes you leave because there was a bigger and better opportunity. Sometimes you leave because you didn't have a choice. But for the kid, all they know is you left. And so, you got it. And there's got to be consistency. There's got to, I'm there every day, because if I'm not there every day, then when a kid's not there, he's like, well, coach, you weren't here. Why do I need to be here? And so it comes down to consistency, and there is a lot of grace in the sense of, I understand that you don't trust me. You don't know my intentions. I've got to prove my intentions. And that comes from repeated acts of character that have been observed over a period of time. And so that whole first year, that was up through the last game of the season, it was all about building relationships and still holding kids accountable, but giving them some grace in that you don't quite know what the expectations are yet. And so there's going to be a little grace in what you do, but you need to understand that I'm giving you every chance possible, whether you deserved it or not. And then moving forward, and those relationships start to be built, and you can really start holding kids accountable, because they know you care about them. They know that you want what's best for them. And so when you come and you say what you're doing is hurting you, they believe it.
Hey, man, Coach Matt Uzzell, I want to thank you so much for sharing some time with me. Best of luck in your clinics, and it sounds like you got some great beginning there at McCollum.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.
This show is brought to you by the book, All I Need to Know I Learned from My Texas High School Football Coach, a handbook of wisdom for parents, young people, and yes, even coaches. Head over to www.learnedfromcoach.com and order your copy to support sharing the stories of these great coaches and leaders. That's learnedfromcoach.com.
All right, once again, I want to thank Coach Matt Uzzell for sitting down and chatting with me, sharing some of his story, his insight, his belief system. And once again, I also want to remind you to please go out and support these sponsors. They are the reason that we are able to bring this show to you each and every week. Until next time, I'm Chris Daly, and we'll see you at the game.